Ahead tonight, the fee increase that airlines say won't fly. We've got the fallout coming up.
Also had 2 charged in the home invasion murder of a 70-year-old woman. The details straight ahead.
And the power struggle nobody wants to win. Who's to blame for the Independence break-in transmission? The National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This segment of the news is brought to you by BTC, powered by Lime.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Keishla Adderley.
And I'm Candino Knowles. As always, it's good to have you with us.
Last week, private pilots were up in arms over new fees imposed by the government, and this week, commercial airliners have joined in on the protest, threatening to stop their services if these fees aren't reversed. Now, Minister of Financial Services Ryan Pinder is defending the government's stance and says he's prepared to wait out any action, though he will meet with operators in the interim. Our Janine Noel Ferguson is on the story.
Online reports suggest that major commercial airlines like Delta, American, and JetBlue are threatening to pull their services out of the country in the wake of imposed taxes. This includes an increased departure tax of $25 per person, a 1% administrative processing fee capped at $500 per import, which replaces a $10 stamp duty levy, and other fees. But despite these concerns by those in the industry, Financial Services Minister Ryan Pinder says he doubts the pullout will happen.
If you have a jurisdiction representing 40% of your Caribbean travel, $150 tax is going to dissuade you from eliminating 40% of your travel. You know, nobody likes increased fees. The methodology behind a lot of these fees is just cost recovery.
Hoping that those airlines do not pull the plug, Pinder says government will sit down with airline operators to explain the reasoning behind the new taxes.
The government of the Bahamas provides in excess of $4 million in subsidies to these same airlines that are coming to the Bahamas. The government pays certain marketing expenses and other subsidies to them. So it's not like we don't have a cooperative relationship with the airlines.
Since the government plans to meet with airline operators on the issues, could this mean that the fees will change? Pinder says,
I don't think you will see that. I don't think so, although you would have to speak to the Ministry of Finance.
The fees, he says, are not excessive, but he did admit that there has been some misinformation about many of the new fees in other sectors.
There was no increase in cruising permits by the government of the Bahamas. Yet there was misinformation out there that caused a lot of discussion and fury when it was all inaccurate. And so we have to be very careful with information. We have to be very careful with the true impact of what we're doing.
An internet petition is being circulated to collect at least 1,000 signatures to present to Prime Minister Perry Christie and tourism officials to repeal the new fees. At last count, there are about 480 signatures on that list. Janine Noel Ferguson, ZNS Network News.
The government is losing an estimated $20 million in revenue to tobacco smuggling and counterfeit products. Now, senior customs and border control officers from all around the region are meeting for the Combating Smuggling and Counterfeit in the Caribbean Conference, hosted by the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation and British American Tobacco. State Minister for Finance Michael Halkitis and Minister of Financial Services Ryan Pinder opened the event. Guest presenter Christopher Martin, who is the Fiscal Crime Liaison Counselor for Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs based in Washington, said it's hoped that the Bahamas would adopt some of its policies and procedures. Meanwhile, Reese Campbell, marketing executive for cigarettes in the Caribbean, says the impact of smuggling on business has been significant.
I'm here today to share with customs colleagues and partners from other administrations how the UK strategy was implemented and the lessons we've learned along a 13-year journey which has enabled us to reduce the level of market penetration in the United Kingdom from around 21% to less than 10%.
Our biggest impact has been from tobacco products that have not paid duties or tobacco products that are counterfeit. So they've used our brands, our brand equity, to establish that we have already established to market their products, and they're already cutting probably about half of the cost because they're not paying the taxes alone.
Now, Minister Pinder said the government has tabled two, quote, mammoth pieces of legislation to address the issue, but there is growing concern from recognized distributors about counterfeit products. Customs Controller Charles Turner adds that other products are also a concern for his department.
If you now eliminate the counterfeiting that is going on, that's even more substantive because the legitimate retailers will have more volume and will have more sales because of the counterfeit products are off the streets. And that's a very important component as well. So just in tobacco, it's a minimum of 20 million per year, which certainly if we address the counterfeiting element, that could go up.
Persons are smuggling tobacco through by mainly cargo vessels, and many of them go through the ports, Family Island ports, and then they are transported to Nassau by way of Port-of-Ski items. Some of the items that are being smuggled in is bears, jewelry. They are a major concern for us at this time. There is always a need for additional manpower, but I think we need to increase our enforcement effort.
In news from the courts, police have charged 23-year-old Polima Street resident Kevin Wims wearing the white T-shirt and a 17-year-old male resident of Polima Street with the May 31st murder of 70-year-old Belpheme Lightbourne. The teen's identity is being withheld because he's a minor. Lightbourne was gunned down at her residence on Polima Street during an apparent robbery in May. She later died in hospital nearly 1 month later. Court papers show that on Friday, May 31st, around 3 a.m., Wims and the teen allegedly broke into the Polima Street home of Telvin Freeman, armed with a shotgun and knives, and robbed, that is, the occupants of electronics and jewelry. The case is expected to be fast-tracked to the Supreme Court via a voluntary bill of indictment. Meantime, 18-year-old Augusta Street resident Jerome McKenzie, seen here wearing the dark T-shirt, was remanded to prison this Thursday after being arraigned on 12 stealing-related charges. McKenzie is accused of stealing cash, jewelry, clothing, and Bahamian passports from his victims between May and July of this year. Apart from facing trespassing and receiving charges, the teen is also accused of damaging two vehicles between June 1st and July 5th of this year. Bail was denied and McKenzie has been remanded to prison. A voluntary bill of indictment is also expected to be filed by prosecutors. This case has also been adjourned. And the defense completed its cross-examination today of Princess Margaret Hospital pathologist Dr. Karen Sands, allowing jurors to hear testimony from another DNA expert out of the United States, Tracy Michelle Johnson. Crown prosecutors indicated earlier that they are relying on DNA evidence to prove their case and will connect the dots forensically. 38-year-old Kofi Goodman is accused of killing 11-year-old Columbus Primary School student Marco Archer back in September 2011.
In our first look at weather, Tropical Storm Chantal has been downgraded to a tropical wave, but will still produce some heavy showers and thunderstorms late tonight and during the morning hours. But outside of our studios just now, we have partly cloudy skies, temperature 84 degrees, relative humidity 66%. Your winds out of the southeast at about 8 knots, barometric pressure 1,015.3 millibars is 29.98 inches, and it is steady. But stay tuned, temperatures around the Farm Islands, travel and boating forecast is still to come.
Well, still ahead, who turned out the lights? The arguments in the Independence Day break-in transmission.
And what this Independence morning, it's like, you guessed it, meet the new arrival coming up.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Shell Helix Ultra. Performance you can see.